Back again with another review, and tonight I'll be talking about a good flick that not a lot of people have heard of. So, yeah, definitely a hidden gem. I don't know how many reviews you're going to find of this film on YouTube. I mean, you might find the trailer, you might find some clips from the movie, because my understanding it's not available on DVD. This actually got a convention about a month ago. It's one of these films that were transferred, VHS transferred because it doesn't have a proper DVD release. So, yeah, I mean, the film is in VHS quality, but it's not that bad. I can watch it. But aside from that, tonight I'll be talking about and reviewing Hider in the House with Gary Busey. And like I said, to me, this is a good flick. I would say a hidden gem, sort of in the vein of, Pacific Heights or Michael Keaton, that type of movie. And the plot here is pretty basic. I mean, you have Gary Busey, who plays his character Tom, and he's a psychopath that's been recently released from this institution, and he has a history of mental illness and being abused by his family. And pretty soon, Gary Busey's character, finds himself a new home in the attic of this family's house, and like he's built his own little room in the attic, little secret room, and the family is unaware that he's hiding out in this attic. You have the mother, who's played by Mimi Rogers. You have the father, who is played by Michael McKean. And throughout the film, Gary Busey's character is stalking this family. Like, again, he has this little secret room where, when the family's gone, he comes out. But he also has this little, like a little vent, like a little grate where he can watch people and spy on people that come into the attic. You have certain scenes where, like, you'll have like strange occurrences happening where the family's dog disappears because Gary Busey killed the dog. You have this one scene where this pest control guy goes up to the attic to smoke out the attic, and then Gary Busey comes out of his little room and he kills the pest control guy and he gets rid of the body. And then it gets to a point where Gary Busey's making these phone calls to Mimi Rogers to, set up a meeting between her and her husband. So you have one scene where she walks in on Michael McKean, where he's having sex with another woman. He's cheating on her. So that's when Gary Busey makes his move on Mimi Rogers, but he starts to become obsessive, and his psychopathness, is starting to come through. And I mean, like I said, that's basically the plot. I mean, you have Gary Busey hiding out in this attic, and he's stalking this family. And just the concept alone, I mean, the idea of Gary Busey hiding out in your attic and spying on you, like listening in on conversations and stuff, he definitely brings the creep factor. But, get into the cast. I mean, again, Gary Busey, he's good in the flick. He's creepy. There's even one moment in the film where the daughter is coming downstairs at night, while everybody's asleep, and she bumps into Gary Busey on the staircase at night, and then he smiles, and I'm like, that's creepy. I mean, imagine bumping into Gary Busey on your staircase at night, and he gives you that little smile. But so yeah, I mean, Gary Busey as a psychopath. Again, he's good in the film. He's creepy. You have Mimi Rogers as the mother. She was fine in the film. You have Michael McKean as a father. He was fine. He was good support. So overall, the cast has a good cast. It was directed by Matthew Patrick. And I was looking this guy up on IMDb, and Let's see what this guy's directed. So he's directed a couple of TV movies in the past. A couple of TV movies that came out back in the day. One called Tainted Blood and the other one called Night Owl. Both came out the same year, 1993. And then he would go on to direct a bunch of shorts, which I've never heard of. So this guy, for the most part, directed a lot of short movies. Again, stuff I've never heard of. And the guy who wrote this movie, Lim Dobbs, the guy who wrote the screenplay for this film also wrote the screenplay for The Hard Way, a good buddy cop film with Michael J. Fox and James Woods. He also wrote the screenplay for Dark City, The Score, and Haywire. So yeah, the same guy that wrote the screenplay for Dark City wrote this movie, which is interesting. And, you know, it moved at a good pace. I mean, it's about an hour and 50 minutes or 55 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood. But, you know, to me, moved at a good pace, had good suspense, you know, throughout the film. And as far as like history behind this film, there is a little production history. And it says here, according to Wikipedia, a psychologist was hired as an advisor to make sure the psychology of Gary Busey's character was as realistic as possible. After meeting with the psychologist, Gary Busey was excited, saying that it was a NAR film. He explained that NAR meant no acting required. Gary said, "I am the character." Gary Busey was then involved in a terrible motorcycle accident where he was not wearing a helmet and got horrible brain damage. This occurred 5 days after principal photography wrapped on the movie. As far as the writing, there's a little bit of history there. This film was the directorial debut of Matthew Patrick, who also reworked the film script. One of the main things that was changed was that Tom Sykes, the main character and primary antagonist of the film, was originally more sympathetic. The original script showed that he grew up in an abusive household, and his actions were motivated by a desperate craving for a family of his own. Because of this, he is unaware of his own strength, and if he acts violently, it is done out of fear or of a perceived threat. The film is not very graphic, but is rather driven by suspense. Originally, the film ended with Gary Busey's character redeeming himself. After being devastated by rejection of the family, he explodes in fury. However, before he can complete the destruction of the family, he is struck with a powerful realization that he is reenacting the abuse that he suffered as a child. This would cause him to break the chain of violence that is usually carried down from generation to generation. It is seemingly small, but really is a significant victory for this character. This ending has more optimism. Did I skip something? Okay, the ending has more optimism for then the movie is about how abused children can overcome their past. It is about finding the love within themselves. In the original ending, Gary Busey's character attempts to burn down the house with the family inside, recreating what he did to his abusive family when he was a child. However, when he sees the terrified faces of the family, he realizes that he has become as evil as his parents. Though he has been rejected, he still loves his family. And he pushes them out the window to safety. And as he watches them kiss and hug each other, Tom realizes that he can never be a part of them, and he lets the house burn down around him and killing himself. Although the studio was very supportive of the film director Matthew Patrick wanted to make, the studio eventually decided to have a more commercially safe Fatal Attraction style ending, where Gary Busey's character becomes evil beyond redemption, attempts to murder the family, and is eventually shot dead. This is eventually what was filmed and put into the film. So, yeah, interesting. But, I prefer this ending. If you were to ask, I think I like this ending a little bit more. As far as its release, the film was scheduled to be released in 1,200 theaters in the United States, which was a lot in 1989. Unfortunately, right at this time, Vestron got into difficult financial trouble, and the movie was shelved, never receiving a theatrical release in the U.S., only at film festivals. The film had a previous distribution agreement, however, that it had to be released theatrically overseas in Europe. They honored it, but just barely. The film only played for a week in theater, but it was pulled. The film received excellent reviews and notices wherever it opened. Later, it was sold to TV, cable, and VHS. In 1991, the film was finally released on video cassette by Vestron Video. The film has been released on DVD in the UK, but as of February 2010, Lionsgate has yet to announce any plans for a Region 1 DVD release. Hider in the House's earnings have never been confirmed, but still went on to win the Saturn Award for Best Home Video, which director Matthew Patrick only discovered many years later after he was on the Directors Guild. So, yeah, interesting stuff, history, about this movie, and again, about its ending. And, yeah, I would say, at the end of the day, Hider in the House, again, if you like, Pacific Heights with Michael Keaton, that type of movie, even then I would say I prefer that a little bit more, but, this is still a good one, a hidden gem. And, Gary Busey, again, is hiding out in this attic, and he's stalking this family, and just that idea alone is creepy. And, Gary Busey definitely brings the creep factor in this movie. And, yeah, good suspense, has a good runtime, has a good pace to it, good supporting cast with Mimi Rogers and Michael McKean. And, yeah, so, I was trying to think if I could, if I'm leaving something out, but, yeah, good little flick. So, that's my review of Hider in the House. I recommend, if you can check it out or find it. But Hider in the House is a good one, so, yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.